Hey everyone, welcome to the Hey Hannah podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Maya Fields, but to my friends and those who know me well, I'm just Maya. I'm a higher education administrator, a mother, and a wife of 14 amazing years. But above all, I'm a Christ follower. This podcast is a special platform created to honor the memory of my beloved daughter, Hannah. It's here that I have the chance to have the conversations that I never got to have with her, to share the wisdom and love I wish I could have passed on. It's a reminder to cherish the precious moments we're given and a testament to the power of healing, hope, and personal growth. If you're someone who's seeking personal growth, inspiration, and practical advice to build a solid foundation for a successful and fulfilling life, this is a place for you. Join me as we honor Hannah's memory together. Laugh, cry, and learn. Get ready for a podcast that is so much more than you could ever imagine. The Hey Hannah podcast, healing hearts, one conversation at a time. Everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Hey Hannah podcast. I am so excited that today we have a special guest joining us. We have Paris Taylor, who is the founder and CEO of Taylor Lane Communications. But the cool thing is Paris wears so many hats. She is a wife, a mother, an entrepreneur, but most importantly, she's a woman of faith. But I'm excited to talk to Paris today because not only is she doing all these things, but she has found a way to do all these things well. So anytime that we can have someone in here that is an inspiration and who is just thriving on all cylinders, we are happy to have them join us and share those secrets. So Paris, thank you so much for joining us today. We are absolutely happy to have you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Meyer, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So I mentioned that you're wearing a ton of hats: wife, mother, entrepreneur, woman of faith. You are a first lady of a church. Juggling all those things, I'll just start off. What is the secret? How are you able to maintain the motivation to continue to put all those hats on when you need to?
You know, outside of prayer, I got to say that seriously. But outside of prayer, fundamentally, it's pre-planning for me. And I am a person who loves detail. I'm detail oriented, always have been. And so for me, the devil is in the details. So, you have to know what's going on. And so because I wear so many hats and my time has to be split in so many different directions, I have to know what the expectation is for the day.
Yeah.
As much as I can. Obviously, I allow time, to be nimble and spontaneous things will pop up. But as much as I can get ahead, I'm going to do it. And so I try to organize my life as much as I humanly can and just go with it.
I love that. It was so funny when you said, I love details. I'm like, oh my God. But we need people who love all the details because that's how you get everything done and that's how you do things well. So it's cool to hear that people actually love, the details and getting small. It's what makes things when you actually come to your final project, it's presented with excellence. So what a beautiful gift to have and what a blessing I'm sure you are to your family and your church house because we need people who are gifted in those areas.
Thank you.
So you mentioned you're already doing all these things. You're a wife, a mom, you're in your church, but then you're an entrepreneur.
Yes.
What made you decide you want to throw one additional thing in the mix? And how did you land on starting your company?
That is a fantastic question. And the short answer of it is I didn't. God made me. My last corporate job, I was there for 9 years. And so I, had success. I have been promoted a few times. I was doing well. That's the thing. For me, it was hard to walk away from something that I was good at.
Yeah.
And you're like, if it's kind of wishy-washy, it's easier to just lay it wayside. But that wasn't that for me. So what I ended up doing was they were hard and they were bad, but I was still trudging through. And it got to the point where I was battling anxiety so bad. I had got to this place where, and I can't even tell you for how long, I may have been like this for months. Maybe I was like this a couple years because it was normal for me.
Yeah.
But I would live with heart palpitations. Like my heart was literally always at an increased heart rate. But that I told myself that this was normal, that this was okay because I was still functioning.
Yeah.
And so a few times I had anxiety attacks. And so the last one was the last one for me. And so it was during COVID. I, was working. I was working tons of hours. My, daughter at the time was 2 or 3.
Mhm.
And so we have all this stuff going on. But nonetheless, that particular evening, I remember like I shut down my computer and then I went upstairs and the attack came out of nowhere, like just like that. And it was vicious and it took several minutes. So there's my husband. He's like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
What can I do to help you? And so I'm literally I'm bawling my eyes out. I'm crying. I'm like hyperventilating, all the things. The killing part is if you had asked me 5 minutes earlier how I was, I would have said fine
Yeah.
because I felt fine. It literally came out of nowhere. So once that happened, I made it through it. He prayed me through it. Then I said, okay, something has to change.
Mhm.
And I told my husband, I said, I don't know how much longer I can do this like this.
Yeah.
And God had already been impressing on my heart to start this company. As a matter of fact, I had the name of Tailored Communications like a year beforehand, but I never really did anything with it. It literally was just a concept. And so all these different changes were happening at work. I'm battling anxiety, all these things. So finally, my job was like, hey, we're phasing out your position and there's nowhere else for you to go. You gotta go. So then I get
Mhm.
but they didn't let me go immediately. It was probably I had like maybe a 6-week run,
Mhm.
uh, or runway, if you will. So in the midst of that, I began telling others, who I knew in the industry that this was happening. I was no longer going to be there. And so one of my good friends, one of my good colleagues looked out for me. So she recommended me actually to what turned out to be my very first client. And the crazy part is I said no at first. I didn't even want to have the meeting. I was like, nah, that's okay. I'll figure out something else. And my husband was like, Paris, it won't hurt you to just have a conversation. We don't
Mhm.
know if this will turn into something or not. Long story short, tried and true, it did. And so it worked out well. Alongside that, while I was building Tailored Communications, my corporate job wouldn't let me go. I was like, you can leave. But they kept asking me to come back. They were like, oh, we need you a little while longer. Oh, do freelance. Oh, do this. So I did that for another 4 months on top
Mhm.
of building this company. So it's a wild story of how I got here, but that's what made me finally take the leap. I was like, I cannot live this way anymore.
Oh man. Um, I love how you mentioned like the God nudges you had along the way to
Mm-hmm.
start in the company. And I think this is very, very important to touch on because a lot of people struggle with, well, what is God telling me to do? Or is this God? Am I hearing the right thing? What did that look like for you? I'm just hoping if you share your experience, maybe someone else is like, okay, I've heard something similar. I've felt something similar. And
Yeah.
maybe that's the God nudge for me. So can you share a little bit about that?
I sure can. And I have a really great example that sticks out to me right now. But through my, year or so of creating this concept of tailored communications, I would be praying, and I'm like, God, what should I do next? What should I go? What company should I go to? And when I tell you, I applied for so many positions
Mhm.
that I knew I was more than qualified for, right? Didn't even get to the interview phase. Like, denied. Nope, hired somebody else, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Like, that I can I was like, what's the problem? That was one side.
Mhm.
And then so time would go on. And so I remember one time I was thinking of what the name should be.
Mhm.
And so I said, God, if this is really you, I'm good for one of those. If this is really you, show me a sign. And so I said, God, if you really want me to start this business, I had 2 requests. I said, you got to give me a name for it, and I want it to be something that's cute, that's kind of witty, and I also want you to send me the clients because I don't have like a salesperson type personality. I'm not salesy, but I'm like, but I got to get the client. So I need you to send them because, this is just how it is.
Yeah.
So nonetheless, so soon as I prayed that, the name Tailored came to mind. And so it is a play off of my last name, but it also says I'm tailoring communications for your brand, for your business, whatever that is. I said, okay, I can go with that. That's a good one. And then I kid you not, it I believe it's this week marks 4 years since I've been in business. And I kid you not, all of my clients have found me.
My
One
goodness.
way or the other, I have not gone out to find any of them. They have always come to me. And so I was like, okay. If I wasn't sure then, I'm sure now. Like, this is what I asked for, and this is what God is.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So, what type of services do you offer at Taylor Communications? If someone was to just go to your site right now, what are they looking at?
Yes. So Tailored Communications is a PR and marketing firm. And so what we do is provide like brand reputation building for brands. So the experience that I got in corporate America was in public relations. And so I took all that I learned there and I was like, there is a big need in faith-based and mission-driven type organizations. They have this heart. They're putting out good in the world, but they just need to communicate it better. So that's where Tailored Communications comes in. But nonetheless, types of services that we provide are if it is writing content, talking points, it kind of depends on the needs of the client. Church communications is going to look different than if it is a nonprofit or another brand, like a household name brand that I might work on. But a lot of times it could be script writing, it's media training, it is conducting interviews, if it's creating a televised something, it's being like in a producer role for that, building out what the narrative is really what it is. It's storytelling.
I love that. And it's just kind of drawn me back to one of the first things that you said is you love the details. And it reminded me when you said that there's a scripture and Paul talks about doing everything in decency and in order.
Yes.
So I was looking into that one time because just kind of like, and I don't know if you've had this experience, but like sometimes when we're doing something for the church and you're like, okay, well, this all I got left and it's going to be good because it's for the church. Wait a minute. We're just gonna bring the Lord the leftovers. I don't know about that. And so I was looking into, and there's a scripture, and Paul's actually talking about that, doing things with decency and order, planning, taking out the time, the decency. Once you break that down into its original form, is talking about like plan. We're gonna do something nice. We're gonna look at the details, and we're gonna bring the Lord our best.
Yes.
And so when you're talking about all of these amazing things that you're bringing to these people, it's because of your gift of detail. Don't you love God's like, duh, I already knew that. But like we get to kind of put the pieces together on the other end and you're seeing like all of those gifts just blossom that he's like
Yes.
inside of you. That is so amazing. I just love that. And I'm glad to hear that things are going so well for you with the business. And can you share your website really quickly? I want to make
Yes.
sure I don't miss that.
Absolutely. The website is connectwithtailored.com. Tailored is Taylord.
Okay. Absolutely. So it's easy to remember. And then, of course, we'll make sure that we put that in the show notes. So if you don't have a pen, you won't miss it. You can just look down at the bottom and you'll be able to get that website.
Yes.
Now, Paris, I know you have a passion for getting women who feel like they're stuck with just juggling too many things to a place where they feel like they can create a life of harmony for themselves. I guess you hear all the time kind of work-life balance, but more of like work-life harmony. Cause I don't know if you ever reach a true balance, but just where they feel good about the place that they are in their lives. So what advice do you have for someone who feels like they're just doing too many things and they feel like they have to be the CEO of every aspect of their life?
Okay. First, let me explain the difference between harmony and balance
Mhm.
because they are not synonymous. We often use it that way, but it's not really in reality. And then I'll give a piece of advice.
Okay.
So, so what I've discovered as I've lived some life at this point is that being in harmony, living a life that is in harmony is much better than trying to be in balance. To be in balance would indicate that everything is equal.
Yeah.
And that everything will require an equal amount of effort from you, an equal amount of time, that there's an equal need across all these different areas of your life. The truth of the matter is any woman, any person, you're not monolithic. You're not one thing. So you're gonna have to wear multiple hats. Whether you are mother, whether you're daughter, your worker, your mom, whatever it is, right? It's gonna require a different part of you, and it is going to require a different level of capacity from you at any given time.
Yeah.
So the scales will always be off. Now, when it comes to living in harmony, I liken it to if we were at a symphony, you have these multiple instruments, and each instrument has its time. You know, you got the keys, you got percussion, you've got woodwinds, and so when they all come together, they make this beautiful sound, right?
Mhm.
But they don't all play every single note all the time. Like there are pauses in between.
That's a great point.
Yes. So I said that to say when you're living in harmony, there will be ebbs and flows of your life or these different areas of your life. Some area might require more of you at a given time or in a season than another. And you can't negate the other areas,
Yeah.
right? You keep those going while you're pouring a little bit more into this one area. So that's what harmony looks like for me.
That's a great explanation. I love the visuals because I can just see that portion that you mentioned with the symphonies. That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. Thank you. Awesome. I hope that is something that women can take with them, and think about. And the piece of advice I'd have for that is you do not have to be the CEO of everything and everyone. You are in charge of you. If you have children, you're in charge of them. If they're adult children, they are responsible for themselves. It's a time and a season where you have to step back and let your adult children lead their lives and trust that what you put in them when they were younger, it is going to bear fruit as they get older. And you're there as a support, but you're not there to lead them. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And so for women out there, I would say free yourself. A lot of times the pressure we put on ourselves is self-inflicted.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can say no to you. You can.
Yeah.
And you will find that these different areas where you feel pulled so strongly, if you back up a little, you can make room for other people to use their gifts because you're not the only one with that gift. And two, if it's family, you can allow your family to be able to get the best of you because if you pour, you won't have pour so much, you won't have anything left to give them, much less to give yourself.
Oh, yeah. That is so true. You hit on so many good points. It reminds me, I had a pastor who said a long time ago, in a sermon, they were saying, if you, and this is just specifically for parents, especially if you feel like you always got to step in, they said, if you are always jumping in to play the little God in your child's life, you're stopping, the path that
Yeah.
God has for them. And like sometimes God will take you on these journeys and you're learning the little lessons kind of in the training ground where like if you get hurt, it's just a little scrape and you put a band-aid on. But if you don't learn that lesson, if you learn that lesson much later, it could be detrimental. But if you as a parent keep stepping in and like saving the day as a little guy, like you, in a sense, are hindering their growth and their learning. And a lot of times as parents, like we want to fix and heal everything. But if we think about it from that perspective too, like we don't want our kids to be hurt in the long run. So sometimes it does take restraining ourselves,
Yes.
even though it's hard. Like, okay, let me back up a little bit. And you free yourself some and the child is learning. So it's a win-win, you
It's
know?
win-win in the long run. I heard someone say a long time ago that, should God allow our children to live to get, older and they grow into these adults, they will spend more time being an adult than they ever did being a kid. And
Yeah.
so while we're raising them, we're trying to give them all these nuggets. But when we step in and save them from every single thing all the time, I think in the long run, we do them a disservice because we are, we become the one that they always run to for everything. but we have to teach them how to be able to stand on their own, how to be able to go to God the same way that we do. We have to teach them that so that they'll know how to function when we're not around.
Absolutely. I have little guys. I've talked about them a few times here. My youngest is in kindergarten and my oldest is in second grade. So little bitty fellas. And you just want to like every little thing. You just want to navigate it for them. And so we just had a small conversation this weekend, my oldest son and I, and it was just very minor scale. He's like, Mommy, I'm putting on this sweatsuit. What shoes should I wear? I said, I think you should pick the ones that you want to wear. He's
Huh?
like, I just want you to tell me. I was like, but I want you to make a decision. He's like, it's just easier if you just tell me the shoes. And I'm just thinking to myself, and so I tell him, I'm like, but I want you, buddy, to make the decision. I know decisions seem hard, and it's shoes. I'm like, but the more you practice, the
Yes.
easier it's going to be. And I know that's the smallest decision, but to him, apparently, this was like
It was
causing some
you know,
stress. Like, okay, this is a small little decision he can make and just get some practice. But sometimes, depending on the age your child is, I say that to say, like, you have to find those times to start
mhm,
helping them learn, like, how to work those decision making muscles, how to find, what they like, and kind of some ways that they can exert themselves. So if you have a little children, sometimes it's a little bit harder to do, find some areas that they can have some control and make some decisions. But I don't
yeah,
want him to get to 18 and graduation, now he's making his first choice.
and he's still like, "Mom, what shoes should I wear?" I don't know.
Exactly, then we're really gonna have a problem, but yeah.
Exactly. I'm the same. Our daughter is 7. She's also in 2nd grade, and so she does the same, and I say, "No, I want you to wear what you
Yeah,
I want you to eat what you wanna eat today. You pick." And just like you, I try to, like, make her exercise this muscle,
yeah,
and then I also do it, 1, so that she can have strong decision-making skills, but I also do it so that even in these little things that seem so trivial at times, it helps build her voice,
oh, yeah.
and we gotta do that for our kids so that when they are reaching that preteen, teen, and on up, like, they'll know their own convictions about whatever the thing is, and they'll be able to stand and not be easily persuaded over everything.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Women are tasked with so many things, and it reminded me as you said that that's how women's ministry is one of my favorite areas of ministry.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about decision making, but we're literally training these children up for the world. And then you still have a job, then you still have a husband, then you still have it's like all these things. So I love women's ministry for that reason. And I'm always like hand clap to anybody who's working in women's ministry because you are pouring into what was the Bible said, the keepers of the home. Like
Yes.
literally, they're
Yes.
doing so much. So when you get to fill them up, like, oh, what a blessing everyone is that's involved with that. So thank you for sharing. You shared a just wonderful information. A lot of good gems there. I want to touch on really quickly. You talk about God giving you a revelation regarding
Mhm.
virtuous women. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that has really shifted your perspective just on success and wellness overall?
Yes, certainly. So for years, I've been in church basically all my life. So for years, I would hear about the virtuous woman. I would read it. And so a few years ago, I would give it maybe about 3 years ago, I'm reading the text and I see in one of the verses, it says that this woman, well, let me take a step back first. So she's this ideal woman. She's a woman of noble character and she's worth far more than rubies. And she takes care of her household. She takes care of her husband, her children. She invests wisely and she has a business and she does all these things, right?
Right.
It's awesome, right? She does all these things. And it seems like she does them all seamlessly and does them all well. But there is one thing that is often skipped over, and that is scripture says that she leaves portions for her family and she leaves portions for her servants. And so that there was so freeing to me because I'm like, this woman was not the do it all woman, and
Mm,
no one should be. She wasn't the do it all. She was the get it done woman, but not the do it all. She had servants, she had help. So while she's out making these investments, she has a successful business. She's opening her arms to the needy. While she's out doing those things, there were folks at home who could help her. And we don't know what kind of servants they were. Maybe they helped clean the house. I would love one. But, or maybe they did other things, but that's the point. And I said, the next time anyone says to me, or if I hear it, they're talking to somebody else and they're like, oh, you need to be the virtuous woman. You need to do this, that, and that. My response is, well, then get me some help.
Right.
And so, yes, help may look like it might not be a housekeeper, but it may be your spouse helping to pick up some of the responsibilities. It may be delegating more responsibilities to your children and in their capacity of what they reasonably can help with. And all of those things, but it was so freeing to me to be like, okay, first of all, I don't have to do it all. I am a person who can do a lot. And I got a big capacity, but I can't fit everything, right? And not be depleted by the end of the day or the end of the season. And so I said, okay, I learned in the midst of that as I'm getting things done, I also learned the value of when things are good enough. And that's a big deal to me because good enough always seemed like growing up, always seemed like it was a bad thing. Like I didn't do the best, but I did it good enough. And it doesn't have to have this negative context to it.
Yeah.
For me, I'm a recovering perfectionist. Okay. I'm getting there. I'm better than I used to be, but I've learned the value of when something is good, let it be good. Like sometimes if we begin to pour too much, then we create more work, more effort, more damage in the long run than was necessary. But when it's good, let it be there and then turn your attention towards something else.
I love that. There were just so many freeing things there, just talking about the virtuous woman, like having help and just being able to pull that out. I love how the Bible's a living word. It just like gives you what you need right then. And I'm so glad you shared it here because I just felt like, oh, that's amazing. What a
It's
revelation.
right there.
You go
Like
right back there and look how encouraging that is. Paris, we can just keep carrying this conversation on. I'm enjoying talking to you so much.
same here.
It's just a lot of good gems. You're sharing so much good information. I want to make sure that we get this in because I feel like you're going to have something really great to share with us. So we end every episode with the same question, and it is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received? Or what is one piece of advice you would pass on to someone you deeply care about?
Yes. So one piece of advice that I've received a lot of good wisdom over the years. And one piece of advice that it zinged me, like it rang with me then, and I carry it with me now. I probably heard it 4 or 5 years ago. It was from my best friend. They had to be more than 4 because I hadn't started the company yet, but I was still in the back and forth. Should I do this? Should I take the lead? All the back and forth. And so she probably was tired of hearing me go back and forth for the umpteenth time. I don't know. But one day she said, Paris, you want to know what your problem is? I said, what's that? And she was like, you know what? You would rather stick with the devil than to trust God and to see where he's going to take you. You'd rather deal with this. This completely shut me down. Not too often that I get speechless, right? But I'm shut down at this point. So I said, man, that stung. But
Yeah.
man, it's true. And I got to get it together. It's like, so we just going to stay here fighting the same demon? How long we going to do this? Or are you going to take God at his word? How many more
Yeah.
times does he have to prove himself in order to get you to move? And so I have actually said that to someone else. But it's stuck. And that is one piece of advice that I would leave to your listeners today is whatever your situation is, if you've been at this mountain long enough, it's time to go. You got to leave the devil, and go see what God has for you on the other side.
Oh, yes, man. Praise the Lord for a friend that loves you enough to be that honest, right?
Yes.
My goodness, that is such a wonderful piece of advice. And sometimes we just need that nudge. It's hard to go into the unfamiliar. So,
Yeah.
but that is good advice. Sometimes you just have to do it. So, Paris, how can people find you? Are you on social media? How can they connect with you and follow you?
Yes. So I am on social media of the company, Tailored Communications. You can find on Instagram or Facebook. And both of those are at Connect with Tailored. That's TAYLORED. And then you can also find me on Facebook at Paris Ivory Taylor. Instagram, I'm Paris like the city. Paris like the city.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, Paris, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and to share all of this wonderful information with Hannah's Hive. We are so thankful to have you here. You have been a blessing to us today, and we appreciate your time in doing so. Hannah's Hive, thank you so much for joining in. We hope that this episode has been not only entertaining, but informative for you and gives you the encouragement that you need to take your next step. So, again, thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. And until next time, take care.
Then that's it. I'm out of here.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Hey Hannah podcast. We hope that you found inspiration, insight, and encouragement in our conversation today. If you enjoyed this episode and want to stay connected with us, be sure to like, subscribe, and review the Hey Hannah podcast. Your feedback helps us reach more people and spread our message of love and wisdom. You can also follow us on social media at Hey Hannah Podcast. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok to stay updated on all the latest episodes, behind-the-scenes exclusives, and engaging content. And for those of you who prefer the visual experience, catch the video versions of our podcast on our YouTube channel. Just search Hey Hannah Podcast and hit that subscribe button to never miss an episode. For even more Hey Hannah goodness, visit our website at www.heyhannahpodcast.com. There you'll find updates, bonus content, and join a community that embraces you with open arms. Your continued support truly means the world to us. Together, let's spread love, share wisdom, and honor every precious moment. Because here at Hey Hannah, we believe that life is meant to be lived well. Remember, a new episode of the Hey Hannah podcast is released every Wednesday, so mark your calendars and be sure to tune in. Thank you again for being a part of Hannah's Hive. Until next time, take care. Entertainment.